everyone. I am here today with Mr. Jacob Patterson. He is a firefighter for the Frederick County Fire and Rescue Services. Mr. Patterson, if you want to go ahead and start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your professional background.
Yeah, so let's see. I grew up here in Frederick County, Maryland. Now working, like you said, as a part of the fire department here. The fire department is not just the city, it's the entire county. So we can get sent anywhere from as far north as Emmitsburg to as far south as Brunswick or Urbana. Before here, though, I was working at Converse, a shoe store, for 5 years. I helped manage that store. It's right down in the Clarksburg outlets, right off 270. Other than that, I've been working more jobs that interface with the public. So I was working retail. I've been working in the food industry. I worked at an Italian restaurant, and then I also worked at a golf course. So a little bit different industries, all of which consisting of working with the public.
What motivated you to pursue this career path?
So for me, really, it was the idea of helping people. Most of your calls or most of what we do on a day-to-day basis is not what you expect. It is a lot of it is you're riding an ambulance. We consistently, most of our calls, or I believe it is nationally 80% of our calls, we are on an ambulance. The other 20% is what you expect us to do, riding a fire truck, we're putting water on a fire. Yeah, it's just one of those ideas. When I was working at Commerce, I realized I was helping people and I enjoyed that. So that's the main get in all of this.
What do you find the most fulfilling about being a firefighter?
It's really that it's like helping the public. There's a lot of calls where we do see people in their worst possible moment, and you're able to remedy that situation for them. You're able to turn a bad thing into oh, thank goodness you were here. And it's calls like that that really help motivate me to do better as a firefighter and an EMT, but it also just makes me want to know the fact that I really love this job.
What are some common misconceptions about your job?
So it's like I was just saying, most of our calls are not on a fire truck. It is on you're on an ambulance. So when you call 911 because you fell down the stairs and you hit your head a couple times, it is firefighters who are actually showing up on an ambulance to come remedy that situation. And here in Frederick County, and most places, I want to say in Maryland, we are firefighters and EMTs. An EMT is emergency medical technician. So basically, we are providing aid and then transporting to a hospital or a trauma center if needed. So that's the biggest misconception, really, is most of our calls nationally are going to be on an ambulance than a fire truck.
What specific education or training prepared you for this career?
So for me, working with the public prior, getting like the face to face, talking with people, that really helps because you're meeting people every day. You're meeting people in unfortunate circumstances. So knowing how to one talk to people, and that's more and more people need to learn how to do is like just communicate better. We are in a digital age, so everyone's on their phones, everyone's sending emails. We're great at that, but sometimes because of that, we lack now the interpersonal communication skills. So my jobs prior to becoming a firefighter really helped develop that for me. And then plus once I got hired with Frederick County, we have a 9 month academy that we go through. And with that, they get you all sorted out. They get you trained in becoming an EMT. They get you trained in fireground safety and fireground operations.
So, how do you ensure that your skills and knowledge stay relevant in a rapidly changing industry?
So for us, a lot of times, thankfully, we things are getting safer. The houses and like the codes for houses now typically come with sprinklers in them. So that's to keep the homeowner safe, the citizens safe. And then with that too, we also have new moves in technology. So now we have a lot more electric cars out there. You're not going to have your typical motor engine. It's all batteries, and dealing with those are wildly different than dealing with just a regular gas powered engine, gas or diesel powered engine. So with that, like staying up to date, just looking at taking the time and really doing the research and figuring out, okay, where are these batteries located, where are all these different things, and looking at and sitting down on a table and talking about it. How do we combat X, Y, and Z?
How important do you think it is to learn outside of the classroom in your field?
My field especially is very important. The classroom's a great way to start off talking about things. That being said, we in this profession we have to be very hands-on with everything. We can't go to a vehicle accident or a wires down call and have to like cut a tree down or anything like that. We can't be like, okay, how do we use a chainsaw? We had to know prior to, we had to get our reps in, figuring all of that stuff out prior to going on the scene. So that way we are competent on the scene and we know what we're doing. When you call 911 and you get police or you get firefighters, you want them to know what they're doing. You don't want them to be asking and figuring out what to do. They're there to be problem solvers, not add to the problem.
How do you mentor or help others grow in their own education or training? When you have somebody new to the field, how do you help them get acclimated?
So after we graduate from the academy, we all get sent out to the field and we all go to different stations. What we'll do is we sit down with the new firefighter and they have a series of requirements they have to do. They are on probation. And we sit down and we're going over all these skills. They're also great refreshers for the guys who, like myself, have been there for 2 years outside the academy. Just going over and consistently hammering home what's our policies, what's our procedures when it comes to if we have a cardiac arrest or if we have a heart attack, how do we act? What are we doing? Who's doing what? Who's doing when? Now, with that, so it's a lot of it is just constant training. We have most of our job is reactive. We don't go to a burning house before it's on fire. We go to the burning house while it's on fire or after it's on fire. So we need to know how to act once we get there. So a lot of our work is preparation.
Walk me through a typical day in your role.
We have long days, so we work 24 hours on. So that means I'm getting up around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, driving into work, and probably not getting there until 4:45 to 5 o'clock. Then what I typically do is I will take whoever I'm relieving from the shift prior, I take all their stuff off or whatever I'm going to be on. So if I was riding the engine, I'm taking off all his turnout gear. I'm going to put it in his locker. And we put mine on there because if we get a call, we want to be smooth. We have a saying where slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So it's just as long as we get all our ducks in our row, we can just go through the motion and we'll be there. So that's why my first thing I always do is take off the person's gear. Now, same thing with an ambulance, so I'll do that. And then we go and check whatever piece of apparatus we are riding that day. So if I'm on an ambulance, I'm checking our aid bag, making sure everything's in it, making sure all of the everything is in not expired, really the best way to put it.
Mhm.
Everything's in date, making sure we have oxygen, plenty of oxygen, making sure we have an AED pad, all that stuff. I'm checking, making sure everything's there, all our tools are there, our pike poles, our Halligan bars, our axes, our spreaders, cutters, anything of that nature. I want to make sure it's there and that nothing's wrong with it because we don't want to go on scene and then realize there's an issue. We want to nip that in the butt first thing. So then after that, typically what we'll do is everyone gets in, gets their stuff on, we'll sit at the table and we'll talk about the day. So usually our officer, the captain, the lieutenant, sometimes the battalion chief, they'll sit down, talk. Hey, today's gonna be icy. Today's gonna be snowy. Let's get some chains on the tires. Let's be prepared. Let's not be reactive. Let's be proactive to these things. If it's calling for a lot of rain, we'll be like, hey, maybe we'll have flooding conditions in certain areas. Here's where we see them. Let's be aware of what that would look like, and we'll talk things out in the morning. After that, we typically talk about what the day looks like. If we have a rookie on that day, we'll go over his rookie book stuff, do some training in the morning. Then between 8 o'clock and lunch, it's almost like you're a little bit of free time. So what typically happens is like myself, I work out usually in that time because we don't know when we'll get a call. After lunch, we'll do usually a training of any kind. So that way we're staying up on all our procedures. Then we'll get ready for dinner, do houseworks, do any daily checks we need or any daily housework that we need to do. So if say we're cleaning the engine bay, maybe cleaning the kitchen, we'll do deep cleans of all that stuff. And then just hopefully you don't get a call while you sleep, but chances are you're not that lucky.
What tools or techniques do you use to stay organized and productive in your work?
To stay organized, I try to keep most of my day-to-day routine, like my day-to-day schedule in a routine. In this job, we don't usually get to be in a routine because it's not like every day at 3 o'clock we have a house fire or a vehicle accident or someone fell down. It could be at 8 in the morning, it could be at 8 at night, it could be at 2 in the morning, it could be 2 at night. So you never know when those times might happen. So what I try to do is keep as much of a routine as possible. Keep my morning checks, something I know I have to do every day. Keep that exactly the same. Try to keep going to bed roughly around the same time because you never know if you're going to get any sleep that night. So I try to keep as much routines as possible. Day to day, it's very sporadic. One day we could run 9 calls, the next day we could run 0 calls. It really, you don't know when it's going to happen. You just know it will happen eventually. And with that, it's tough because if you're at a slower station like myself, you got to find time to, like, you got to find things to stay busy. You got to stay up to date on everything that's going on, like operational. And you want to make sure all your skills are still like good. So I really try and write down everything in the morning, get a whole list of stuff to do throughout the day to stay busy and stay motivated.
How do you stay flexible and adaptable in the face of unexpected obstacles or setbacks?
In this job, we're not going to have a lot of routine. Every call is going to be different than the next. And that's like, for some people like myself, I like that in the sense of you're seeing something different every day. Now, when it comes to a routine going on calls, you have certain stuff you do that's the same, but a lot of things we could be having to maneuver people through hallways that are very small. We got to think a little outside of the box at times because things aren't always the easiest. Things aren't always going to be very cookie cutter for us.
Have you ever felt imposter syndrome in your career and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people deal with imposter syndrome when they first come out of the academy. I know I surely did. And with that, it's just falling back on and knowing that the academy really trained us to a great point to where they feel comfortable that we can go out in the field. So relying on my training, really falling back on the training I've done before. And then with that, you just need to get time on. I think that what always helps is just going back and getting more reps in doing things. Make sure they're going over things multiple times. I'm going to make sure I do look over all my protocols and our policies when it comes to EMS, comes to fire. So that way I'm always up to date and I always know what to do.
How do you stay motivated during tough or slow periods of work?
We touched on it a little bit earlier for slow periods of work, and that's really just trying to find stuff to do, whether it be working out maybe a second time throughout the day, working on knots, working on different routine things that we might have to do out in the field, making sure I know testing myself on different policies. So it's really just like making that list and trying to fill it as much as possible and just knock it out. It's one of those where I think that's the best way to do it. And then on tough times, like if you're on a tough call, like reaching out to someone who might need help, or if you need help, like reaching out to someone who might be able to help you, whether it be mentally or emotionally or physically.
How do you respond when things don't go according to plan?
Yeah, sometimes I know like with vehicle accidents, we have to do cut jobs or we have to open like certain doors using our tools. We use spreaders. The idea behind the first idea doesn't always work. So we've got to come up with two. What's the second option? If this doesn't work, what are we falling back to? Okay, if both those options don't work, what's our third choice? And then if none of these work, we need to get this person out of here. What are we going to do? So a lot of times we have to pivot because things aren't always going to be easy. So just making sure you have an open mind and like constantly thinking of different solutions because at the end of the day, you're a problem solver when you get to the scene.
What do you enjoy doing outside of work that you feel contributes to your professional success?
So outside of work, I thoroughly enjoy like going to the gym, especially when I have time. That's one thing I'm sure most people understand is this is a very physically demanding job. To get better success at work, I'm working out all my own time. It's because when we have all our gear on, for example, I'm way about 235, 240 right now. We're putting on an extra 70, 75 pounds of gear on. So I'm easily 300 pounds at that point. Not to mention then in a scenario where it's like you're in a burning building, you're now 300 pounds and you're in a room that's 1,000 degrees. So your body needs to be able to handle that one and be able to function. But if there's someone in a burning building and you got to bring them out, you have to get out anywhere from 100 to 200 pound, 300 pound person out of the building. It's very physically demanding. So you're going to make sure your body is up for that task.
So you touched on how you physically do things outside of work that you feel like help you be successful at work. What about emotionally or mentally? What are some things you do in that way that help you in your job?
Yeah, so if we have tough calls, we at Frederick, we have a peer support group. So if you ever have a tough call and it really feels like it's weighing on your emotions, every human is going to eventually. It's a great support to reach out to. I know I talked to a therapist and just a routine thing, making sure my mind's all good and we're all set there. And then I really just try to hang out with friends. It's one of those, if you're ever going through dark times, I think your friends are always a great outlet for people.
What advice would you give to a student who's unsure of what career they want to pursue?
I would say try as much as possible. If you feel like being a firefighter is something you want to do, try looking to volunteer at your local fire department. If you think an accountant's going to be what you want to do, take business classes. If you think you're more into the theater or the arts of that nature, go ahead and take those classes. You're never going to fully know if you want to do something until you quite literally do it. So I always recommend people try as much as possible to figure out what they might want to do.